Hello, it's me. It's BLÁITHÍN de BURCA. I am a comedian, so that fits in well with the theme of this ad. This ad is for my show on Sunday, the 29th of September. Oh my God, that's so close. Well, don't worry. There are still tickets and I would love if you came. My show is called SAUVIGNON BLÁITHÍN. It's upstairs in Whelan's this Sunday on the 29th of September. I have support from the hilarious and brilliant Becky Cheadle, and I talk about things like feminism, ADHD, and how I love cock. So if that sounds like the kind of thing that you like, and also I'm friends with Gareth and James, that's why they're doing me this huge favour. So that means that I at least like sound people, so I like you. So you should come along. Like I said, tickets are available online. Please come and laugh at me. Give me your tee-hees and your la-la-lols, or else I'll die. Okay, mwah. Bye.
You're listening to a main feed episode. Go to patreon.com/Celtic Ligers, where €5 a month gets you weekly full-length episodes, stray bonus content and access to the back catalogue. Also helps cover hosting and gives us money for sweeties. Thank you. Celtic Ligers.
Recorded 22nd of September 2024.
Welcome to Celtic Ligers.
Yeah.
The premier investigative reporting podcast.
Yeah. Like John Ronson hanging out with Alex Jones before it was cool.
Yeah. Or Richard Chambers. Or
Donny O'Sullivan. Was that his name?
Yeah.
Like him. One other thing is that if you want to go on the Patreon, where our episode where we went to Comedy Unleashed in Ireland happened. Watching Graham Linehan perform. It's an approximation of stand-up, an impression of stand-up. I don't know what you'd call it, but James discreetly recorded the set, and it is available there if you want to, as an additional thing. But anyway, I listened to the full set, and it was very tough. It was a very tough listen, but I just want to do some cleanup. And I know I've spent a disproportionate amount of time thinking and talking about Graham Linehan. People can go back to when me and James actually recorded an episode in 2019 about Graham Linehan and his association with an Irish animation studio on a previous podcast that I did. Anyway, it's beside the point.
The Hack Incorporated Pod. Episode 27. That would be a moral matter. Link in show notes.
But every time I'm thinking about this fucker, and I'm just... I think it's because I really liked Graham Linehan, and this fall from grace has been very unpleasant to watch, but also I don't know, there's some sick kind of the pleasure you get from watching this shit.
Yeah. It's just so dark.
I know.
I haven't watched it. Is it like King Lear? You know anything about King Lear?
Yeah, it must be like King Lear. I haven't watched King Lear, but it seems like it would be like one of the classics. Yeah. One of those classics like King Lear.
Let me look up what King Lear is about. Give us another one there.
Fucking... What, is it something like... it's like Raging Bull. He's like Raging...
Yeah.
He's like the bull from Raging Bull.
He was so good. Yeah. He was so good. Such an expert stand-up. He just couldn't keep it together.
Yeah.
The plot of King Lear.
That's what it's like. But
King Lear of Britain.
Okay.
I guess he's not British. He wants to retire from his duties. No, okay, so it's not like King Lear at all.
Okay. It's like somebody who was kind of good at something and then became obsessed with something else, and it destroyed their lives, and now they're doing something that they hate for people that they hate, but they have to pretend that they like it, and it's incredibly sad. So I like it. I mean, But ultimately, the reason I even brought it up at all, just to mop up some little bits, is that there was a detail from his stand-up special, which if you weren't a Graham Linehan obsessive like I am, might have overlooked it, okay?
Yeah.
But it was the detail where he said, he's like, so I went and I got like a surgery. I got a surgery, folks. You know, he's setting up he's doing like the stand-up patter that he's learned from like Andrew Doyle and co. And he's trying to be like, oh, it's excruciating. It was really unpleasant hearing him go like, I've forgotten my joke. I forgot what I was going to say. That's very professional.
And you didn't have to see it.
Oh, God.
Like the tears welling in his eyes. Like,
and then they're like yelling up at him, and they're just kind of like, they're encouraging, but they're encouraging in like a horrible, bigoted way as well, you know?
Yeah. I think as well, you probably don't, like, we said it on the other podcast, but like, all the acts were so afraid of the crowd. You know what I mean? So like, when Lennon was on stage and like the crowd were like shouting up at him, it was like this, you can sense he was like sort of buoyed by it, but also like scared, you know?
Yeah. But he decided, he said one thing, all right, so he asked if anybody had like basically an operation where you're allowed to be awake and observe the operation, okay?
Crazy move as well.
And then he asked that, and then he goes, do they have that in Ireland yet? And I was like, fuck me. I mean, I don't know whether they do or don't, but the way he said that was like, you know, I don't know if they're, but anyway, they offered him like, hey, you've got you've got cancer in your ball. Do you want to be awake and watch us while we remove it? And he said yes, for some reason.
Well, why would you ever do that?
And then he said,
like,
yeah.
Sorry.
No, it is. It's just baffling. I was like, that's the last thing I would ever want to do in the world. And then he said, I said yes. And then they started removing my ball. And I was like, actually, I made a huge mistake. And they were like, well, we can't knock you out now. So he said he just had to be awake for it. And then you think in your head, all right, where's this going? And then that's the story. And it's clearly like an early stand-up when you go like, all right, well, what are the things that happened to me that I thought about and have had an impact on me? Oh, is it this? And then you go up and you say it and you're like, nobody laughs. And then you go, fuck, I should have thought of an ending to this. Do you know what I mean? I should have had something like a beginning, a middle, or an end, or a point, or to try and like, you know, bring it into anything. But like, it's just, and then the other thing that he said, like to skip ahead a bit and skip back, which is he goes, maybe I'll do another gig next year. And I was like, yeah, that's how gigs work, is that you just do one a year and then you get better somehow. You know what I mean? It's like such an insane thing where I was like, how are you getting this so fucking wrong, man? You're like somebody who likes to think of themselves as an expert at comedy, and you've studied this type of stuff, and you're just like doing it in such a fucking strange way. But anyway, the reason I bring it up is because for the real Glinner heads, I remember that there was always this kind of hint of his bigotry, but it wasn't really overt until a specific time. And what it was I remember listening to Jarlath Regan's podcast, An Irishman Abroad, where he basically just kind of, they have a nice pleasant chat, but then he kind of confronts Graham Linehan on some of his bigotry. And and he basically, you know, kind of asks him like,
is this before or after the ball surgery?
This is it. It's after the ball surgery. So what he says is, he was like, why are you posting about this? And then he says, well, because essentially what happened was, there's an episode of the IT Crowd where Douglas Renham, I think that's his name, played by Matt Berry, the boss. He starts dating this woman who turns out that, she was previously a man, you know?
It does have, you know, obviously, I do like the way it's revealed. I find that very funny. The whole like, you know, she goes, I was a man. I was born a man or something, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then he's like, okay. And then like, she's like, I didn't think you'd take it so well. And then at the end of it, he's like, I can't believe you thought it would bother me that you're from Iran.
Yeah.
Now, politics aside.
Yeah.
That's a good joke.
I mean, for that like specific character, the idea of him, like this was always his defense. For this specific character, it would really destroy him and bother him, you know. And so that's why he would always.
Obviously, that's.
Yeah, it's obviously bullshit. But as in, like, you could argue that. Fine, fair enough. But then a lot of the comedy comes from, hey, imagine she's a fucking woman who likes football and eating crisps in bed, and she loves beer. And you're just like, fuck me, man, this is so grim. And then, like, each one of the female characters in anything that Graham Linehan has written is like, there's at least in Black Books and in the IT Crowd, there is one episode where the female character is in a relationship with some guy who she believes to be gay, and then and then he kind of reveals that he is gay by the end of the episode. And it always is in like the telltale signs are that he rings his mother a lot and he likes like musicals and shit, you know. And so it's just funny that like, and then even the shows like that he made that were, you know, allegedly progressive, like Motherland, you still have like characters who are like breeders. You know, the women are like, she's got throw up on her fucking shoulder, she's juggling the kids, she can't catch a break. This lady, how does she keep it all together? You know, and there's that type of like, there's just a lot of gender stereotypes, I would say. And this guy who kind of constantly talks about being like this protector of women and all this, it just boils down to like, women don't have facial hair. Women are mothers, they're carers, they're givers. It's this type of thing. It's like, you know, the definition of a woman is still incredibly conservative. And despite that, they think that anyway, it doesn't really matter. The point I was bringing up is that because of that episode, he was the thing he would always say is, you know, oh, that's just the character. That's just the character. Yeah. And he claims that the trans community was very aggressive towards him, which, I mean, like, maybe they were. I mean, obviously I'm more on their side than I am on his side. It's just like, but he's an incredibly, like, thin-skinned fella who's very, anyway, the point is he started doing his research on this stuff. Yes. But when he started doing his research, this is what he says in this Jarlath Regan episode. He says, well, once I was like waylaid, basically, once he was in a hospital bed as a result of getting his ball removed, he had time to be on his phone while he was also on painkillers. So he was basically just mouthing off against everybody and also doing the research down. Haven't you seen, like, you know, realfeministblog.org saying that they're experimenting on children in Tennessee? This is disgraceful. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like that type of shit where it's just like, and so I just thought it was such an interesting thing for the origin story, because what he doesn't mention, or maybe he did and I'd forgotten about it, but he did on stage, which is that, like, so you basically had, you know, a surgery that affected your, you know, what would you call it?
Well, you got your ball cut off in the stupidest way possible, in the most traumatic way you could possibly ever do it. And then you read about people who, like, are getting gender reassignment surgery, and you're somehow linked. You're like, it just traumatized you so much that you spend the rest of your life just thinking about that in the stupidest way possible.
Yeah, because you're like, and I imagine that's what motivates him. He's like, I remember when they cut into my fucking flesh and they tore out a piece of my body, and how horrifying that was. And they're doing that to these children, and they're doing this in such an irreparable way that they can't come back from it. And that it's mutilation. It is akin to Nazi experimentation, as he has said multiple times. And
it's just so mad. It shows his thinking where he's like, I got this surgery that's, you know, saved my life. Yeah. So I don't want anyone else getting a similar surgery. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, people who are getting their balls cut off for a different reason. Yeah. It's like they're doing it to save their life, or like to live the life they want. You know what I mean? But he's just gone like, I don't want anyone doing this ever again.
But it's a really interesting wrinkle to the origin story of Glinner, And I used to, I still do. I draw a distinction between Graham Linehan and Glinner. Glinner is like, like there was another thing that they pointed out like years and years ago. Limmy basically posted up something giving about, if I remember, Milo Yiannopoulos and his anti-trans rhetoric. And Graham Linehan retweeted him and was like, yeah, we need to look after our trans brothers and sisters, And then people are like,
really?
Yeah, this is in like 2016, 2017 or something. And the idea was that like people are going, look at this, you hypocrite. And I was like, no, what you've seen now is somebody who had a mental breakdown, some traumatic event involving their balls, where it just activated them in the worst way possible, fucked up their entire lives. And then these horrible people are encouraging what's essentially a mental breakdown. And then when you see him performing stand-up, shaking like a leaf and just like, I think he knows in his heart there's something not right about what's happening now. But instead of like, using it to get back to his family and, stability and comfort, he's digging in deeper and going more like, now he's a Zionist, now he's a climate skeptic, now he's all these awful, disgusting things, and you're just like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it's mad just to see someone become so evil like that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, he obviously has some sort of breakdown, but then, you gotta get yourself together.
I know.
He just sort of like, was like, oh, maybe this is another way to be famous. You know what I mean?
Yeah. If he had like
it's Lear. It's King. It's like
King Lear or Macbeth. Famous tragedies by the bard himself. Only the bard could have predicted the human condition in such a way. I put up a tweet the other day because I thought it was very funny. I was like, me sitting in a chair like AC Slater going, Othello was like the OJ of his day.
I haven't read it, Othello.
It's just about a black man killing his wife.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's amongst other things. Obviously, Shakespeare's plays, they're not just about one thing. They're about many, many things.
They're about a parrot.
Yeah.
Isn't the parrot called Othello?
That's called Iago. Yeah.
Oh, well, Iago's a cat.
Iago's in Othello.
Okay. Simba, is he in there?
Yeah, and Mufasa and
the hyena. Yeah, Mufasa.
the Whoopi Goldberg hyena.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to find this again because I actually found some tweets online that were referencing what you saw, where the guy was like, great night. It's amazing when you can get you can call somebody fat and make fun of them and everybody's still laughing. It was like that. I need to find it though.
Yeah.
What was the guy's name? Yeah, here we go. Yeah. And also, who cares? I was gonna say that one of the guys who organized it, his name was Gareth. So if Schaefer was kind of kept mentioning somebody called Gareth, this possibly wasn't talking about Graham Linehan, or that he was getting mixed up.
No, he was talking about it, the way whatever way he said it, he kept saying Gareth.
Yeah.
He probably got mixed up between them. As in, like, he knew there was someone involved called Gareth.
Yeah.
Or Graham.
These guys are so painful. I'm trying to find his, so this guy, Gareth, don't know what the fuck his actual last name is, the one who picked up Graham Linehan from his mother's house. He, obviously just posting a load of racist stuff, but also mad Zionist. I mean, any Irish person who's a Zionist really fucks me up, to be honest. I just can't get into the mindset.
Yeah. The response has been heartening anyway to our coverage.
For a very important journalism that we did.
Yeah. I'm just glad people aren't angry at us.
It was like, it could have gone a lot of ways. See now, where the fuck is this? Oh God, all this. He tweets so much, but also the stuff is so fucking rotten. This is going to be so boring by the time I get to it. When? Oh my God! Sorry, I thought. Well, I must be nearly there. I'm only on September 19th.
Jesus.
I've been scrolling now for a good 30, 40 seconds. 18th. Oh God, such an ugly view, isn't it?
What?
Nothing. Just all these pictures that he's posting of like, it's that type of thing. The scrotes discourse. The idea of like, look at these fucking disgusting animals, and we're, you know what I mean. They're invading the streets, and none of us are safe. And this is what you get when and it's just like, imagine living like that all the time.
Yeah. Scroats invading. What is it? You know, something to do with Graham Linnon's surgery.
Yeah. He's got an AI generated picture of Jeremy Corbyn holding a walkie-talkie.
Fella in work used the word scroat there, and I think that is the first time I've heard it used
in the wild,
in the real world.
Yeah.
And I just did not say anything. I just didn't respond to his point. I was like, you know what I mean? I felt like I'd been tasered.
Yeah.
You know? I was like, because I was like, not, you know, if he just said some other thing, but I was like, it's so Reddit. You know what I mean? I was like,
yeah.
I was literally like, who is this guy? Like, what is this guy's life? You know? It was culture night the other night, Friday.
Yeah.
And I went to a goth gallery.
You'd be lucky to find any culture these days.
I actually love culture night so much.
Especially Irish culture, a thing of the past now.
Yeah. I found a good video online, and it's like, what's that song that goes like dee 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 dee? You know that song?
Yeah, what is that? I remember it. That used to be our intro for the podcast.
Yeah.
What was that? It was in Uncut Gems. So good. I'll Fly With You. I don't know who sang it though.
I'll send you the video if I can find it. And it's like just these like Comedy Unleashed fan style people sitting around this camp. It's such a weird setup. It's like loads of them sitting around a fire, like a campfire, and they've just like that track playing, but they're all just going English for the English, Irish for the Irish, Welsh for the Welsh, dee 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 dee. It's so weird, and they just do that over and over again. You know?
Oh damn, man!
It's like what? It's like what? How did this happen? What setup is it? English for the English, Irish for the Irish.
They're all trying to get a, you know, Jeremy Corbyn.
Yeah.
They're trying to get a bit like that, and they can never get it going. Nobody can get something as, you know.
But it really was that thing of like, we need to protect our culture. The culture is just like, this is the culture. Yeah, I went to a goth gallery on Hume Street.
Yeah.
But it was pretty disappointing.
What was on?
I was hoping to be like, it was supposed to be some fashion show, but it seemed to have been delayed. But yeah, I was hoping to be like, you know, guys walking around in vampire teeth and stuff. But I got talking to this guy who was there, and he had this room, and he'd made like hundreds of dolls.
Yeah.
He called them Goo dolls. And they were just like lining the walls. And he had this like lineage of them. In one way it was cool. It was like, these are the Goo dolls, and like these are the originators. And then it was like, and after this point, they were sort of changed style of it. And he's like, a mad scientist tried to create a hybrid with cyborgs.
Mm.
And then he'd like this real long like world that he'd built, and you could buy a book where he'd explain the whole thing.
Mm.
And I think he
Did
was
you?
blind. I was tempted because I was like, it felt like, I don't know if you ever did this, but when I was young, I used to do similar things, you know,
Mm.
like draw genealogies of things that I just made up.
Mm.
You
I
never
didn't
did
do that. No, I did other things. I'm not saying.
Or I remember at Easter when, you know, you get the classic eggs, and
Oh, you did that in your house. Okay, interesting.
and yeah, there's a plastic bit that the egg comes in.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah, I do.
there's
Yeah,
a cardboard, and then I turn those into spaceships.
yeah.
Yeah, so like I paste like paper with like a control panel on the inside and stuff,
Mm.
and I made like the aliens had a cotton wool.
Mm.
So it reminded me of that. So I sort of liked that this guy was still just, you know, keeping the culture alive.
In 2021, I had a film that got into the only festival I really got into, to be honest. Before you think I'm bragging, but it was the BFI Film Festival in London. So I went over, and there was a bit where people were. It was like a networking thing where people were kind of supposed to schmooze essentially. And then this guy came over to me, and he was trying to figure out what I would do. I did, and how he could use me. You know, it was that type of thing. And eventually I told him I was just in animation, and then he goes, "I've got an animated film actually. It could be animated actually, I think." And it was like this thing that he had come up with where he said it was a musical about fruits, okay, like pieces of fruit, that were going to the Holocaust.
Thanks for clarifying. Going to the Holocaust.
So they were like had little eyes and mouths, and they'd be apparently singing, and he was like, but he was doing it, but he knew that he was kind of seeming insane.
He was singing.
Yeah, apparently. I mean, I was like, okay, all right, oh yeah, interesting. And then
like the only story about singing that comes out of the Holocaust, you've heard they've called it story, but it's like there's that one where they like load in, you know, they put everything in the gas chamber, and then the group of them started singing.
Yeah,
but I take it that wasn't what he was. What
no,
they were singing
it was
about
more.
in this
It
one.
was more lighthearted. It was a sort of like a dark comedy.
To me, that is anti-Semitic. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, pretty
Like,
much.
I know it's but like, yeah, to be like, yeah, a bunch of fruits go to the Holocaust, and it's like a banana that's really skinny or something.
Yeah, one of the
And
things
then
that
it dies.
your man Gareth shared there, not me, this guy whose handle is @Gareth, not Garth. And when I was scrolling down to try and find the thing, which I did not succeed in finding, one of the things that he posted was another AI generated picture of like clearly somebody typed in Jew, okay, and then they just come up with like, you know, the fucking
Joe Schaefer.
like he's got like the beard and the little yarmulke and all this. But the idea, the joke is like, so what's happened is, if anybody's unaware somehow, there was a bunch of pager explosions in Lebanon. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And then next up was walkie-talkies exploding. But basically, it's just however it happened, the Israelis managed to. It turns out they didn't intercept anything. They actually just made the stuff and made it look like it was the brands that they bought in certain parts of Lebanon, or Hezbollah bought. And they smuggled in traces of explosives that couldn't be detected in various sweeps. And then they just set them off indiscriminately, killing a number of people, including an 8-year-old girl, and maiming a lot of other people. And it was completely horrifying, and it's a kind of an innovation in terrorism that it's one of those things like when suicide bombing got kind of unleashed, where it's like, we do not know where this is going to end up now, you know?
Yeah.
And it's very horrible and scary. But because for the past few, like nearly a year, the Israelis have been like dabbing, and I know that sounds like it's out of date to say dabbing, but that's probably what they'll do because they're Israeli. They'll be dabbing on like the remains of a children's hospital, going like, fuck you, Hamas, haha, lol. Here's me, you know, asking my partner to marry me over the corpse of like, you know, a 3-year-old. Shit like this, you know. They've been just like, they've had nothing really big. So now, like, as in, what this is like, they're like, finally, something that makes us look like James Bond, okay? So all of the memes are about how like spies they are and how like, you know, classic Mossad trying getting this done, you know. So this image is what I'm saying is this image is a meme, and what Gareth is trying to do is show support for the people that he likes, which are the Israelis, okay? And what he has is one of the most anti-Semitic AI depictions of a Jewish person selling like this phone. It's like, I'll give you good nice offer for this pager. And it's like, they're meant to be like classic Israeli dark humor, which this is the type of thing that we do. And it's like, you're an anti-Semite, motherfucker. This is you're like, yeah, we're the ones who couldn't get put in the ovens. It was like, fuck me, man. This is dark. This is dark, you know? Like, and I've seen the memes that they're coming out with as well are so fucked up. Like, they're talking about how, like, they're, like, doing this fake thing where they're pretending that they can't get the joke out because they're laughing too hard, filmed themselves on TikTok. And one of the things they said was that Lebanon or Beirut had, like, is now one of the most progressive areas in the Middle East because they had mass gender reassignment surgeries carried out by pagers. And I was like, you know, like a fucking girl died. Like, they were set off in supermarkets. Some of them weren't even owned by people who were like, it's not that would make even a fucking blind bit of difference, do you know? Like, it's just that they're laughing and they're giggling, and it's just like I just like, they're so fucking evil. It's insane. It's ludicrous.
Yeah, but how did the Holocaust banana thing end?
The fruit thing end? I should find that guy's website again. He gave me his card, and I looked up his website, and it was the most unhinged thing I've ever seen.
And what was it called?
I don't know. I mean, it could have even been called like Fruit Holocaust or something. Like, I mean, it wasn't subtle, so, you know.
It's such a mad idea. Like, to be like, how do you even draw like an apple starving to death? You know what I mean?
Have I found it? No, I haven't. I thought it was. There's just no way I'm going to be able to find this.
Let me look up. Do you remember how it ended?
Well, he didn't say how it ended. He just kind of gave me the pitch. That was the log line. I'll never find this guy. I'm sorry. I don't know.
Germany for the bananas, Israel for the apple, you know.
Oh,
don't worry.
No, I'm too... enough of that. One thing we didn't talk about last week is, speaking of fruit, the Apple money that they have to send us now.
Against our own will, against the will of the Irish government.
They don't realise how anti-Semitic they're being by, you know, an Apple hoarding loads of money, you know? If only they'd seen this guy's play. They're actually playing into tropes, you know, like Jeremy Corbyn sharing that mural where it's like, or like fucking Greta Thunberg having a fucking octopus soft toy where you're just like, oh my god, you don't even know what tropes you're trading in right now.
Yeah, the octopus one was crazy. What was it? It was so like a post she did about where she had an octopus in the background.
Yeah, and apparently an octopus teddy or soft toy is meant to be like a symbol for autism, but then they were like, oh, she knew what she was doing when she put that shit front and center. She was talking about the insidious reach of the, you know,
and it's based off like one or two like political cartoons from like the 1900s.
Yeah.
It's like, You can let that one go. Do you know what I mean?
You gotta be able to talk without like everything becoming an anti-Semitic slur. Maybe that'd become a new language of just like speaking in anti-Semitic slurs, you know?
It'd be like if you saw some political cartoon, someone calling like, you know, someone a monkey. And you were like, that is so anti-Irish.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I know. Like at this point, it's just like you're reading into this just a little too much. Like,
or just like the wrong way, you know? Like, it's moved on. That symbol's been changed.
Even the whole thing about the bankers in the first place in many ways, where they go like, these people are, the bankers are like stealing all your money and getting rich. And I was like, that's anti-Semitic. I was like, I think you were just anti-Semitic because you just assumed
why is it an autism symbol?
I have no idea. I couldn't tell you. Apparently it was. I'm just reciting what I heard, so I didn't bother researching it. But this one, I just wanted to do my favorite trope that they came up with, where Alec Feldman back in 2019 tweets, okay, am I being totally ridiculous here, or does calling him Epstein make him sound more Jewish, okay? And David Baddiel retweets that and says, every Jew watching noticed that. And what they're talking about is the way that Corbyn pronounces the Jeffrey Epstein.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, now there's P. Diddy. Well, he's on suicide watch.
Is he?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that they now just say that. Because that's what happened with like Weinstein, where he's like gets found out for all of these horrible sex crimes he got committed, and then he's like, "Oh, I'm in a wheelchair. I'm really sick now. I might die." And it's like, I notice you're still alive, motherfucker. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
You're in a fucking cushy ass prison, but like they always have to be like, "No, you have to be nice to me because actually I might kill myself." I was like, all right, well, what if I don't care if you kill yourself?
Yeah. So you think Epstein killed himself?
I thought that. Well, what do you think happened?
Well,
don't tell me you're one of those nuts. You're one of those fucking nuts that,
Yeah. An octopus snuck in and strangled him to death. That's what I think.
You tell me the way his neck broke, and then they keep you because they were keeping him on suicide watch. I mean, the other thing that they bring up is everybody in the media always gets kind of fixated on the suicide watch in the room, as opposed to the guy who tried to shank him to death and failed. You remember that? Where they they had this cop who tried to shank him, failed, and they're like, we're going to keep Epstein on suicide watch now. And then both of the people who have him on suicide watch, one of them like falls asleep, the other one goes for a piss, and then somehow he manages to use the bed sheets, which are literal sheets of paper, wraps them around his neck, jumps onto the ground on his knees with such force that he breaks his neck. And then it's like, whoops, how did that happen? It's just like, no. The thing is, an octopus broke in there, and actually, you're telling me the only one that could break his neck with that much force is the octopus that they let loose in the room, that the Clintons poured into the room to,
Yeah. Like, you read about those octopuses that can, like, sneak through a crack in the door and stuff. That octopus is probably back in Israel now, laughing it up.
Yeah. Don't worry, I took out one of our guys. Because that was it. The theory is that he's a Mossad agent who was finding compromise on people.
I think he is, or he was.
I don't know whether it was confirmed, but like, I think,
he probably was. Like, they're never going to confirm that. No. By the way, Drew Harris is like MI5 agent.
He is.
They're never going to confirm
I have never been more convinced. Like, is everything that moves on? Because that's like, I just remember it like in 2017 or no, it's 2018 where it was like this guy got shot by the police. I can't remember who it was. I was like, that's unusual. I haven't really seen a guy get shot by, and then to say like a few months later, another guy gets shot, and I was like, it's a fucking strange escalation of violence.
Yeah.
And then the next thing that happened in that year, I think it was 2018 as well, where it was the Frederick Street occupation, where they have an unmarked van that's down from the north that was associated with paramilitary groups, and then the guards go in wearing balaclavas, and then they like remove.
No,
and
it wasn't the guards. It was the people.
Well,
in
the guards
van
were facilitating it. Like, the guards wore the masks, but there was a private security firm that was, alleged at the time, and I don't know whether this is.
Wait, the guards were wearing balaclavas?
Yeah, they were in Frederick Street.
I thought it was just the lads in the van.
No, the guards as well. But like,
That's mad.
so that happened in 2018, and I just remember thinking like with Drew Harris, where it's like Drew Harris is like now head of like what was it with the PSNI, and now down here head of the guards, and I was like, that's a strange.
Yeah.
It's just a strange escalation of violence that happened immediately once he became the Garda Commissioner.
Yeah. Like he also has worked with MI5 in the past.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's even loads of weird stuff, like, you know, the way there's all the stuff coming out about the Dublin Monaghan bombings at the minute.
Mm.
And I think the British government are doing some sort of investigation into it. And the Irish government aren't. Because they said there's no reason to do two.
Okay.
But then, like,
Andy.
the gang associated with the Dublin Monaghan bombings are called the Glenanne gang.
The Glitter Gang.
No.
Okay.
Close,
Sorry.
Glenanne. And it's like Drew Harris has seen loads of the files associated with that gang, but he's not talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's never gonna like release that information.
Yeah.
It's just sort of like he's out of our guards, you know, like our police force,
Yeah.
and he knows a lot about like information that is classified by a different government, not our own.
Yeah.
About an attack that was done against, you know, people in the Republic.
Yeah.
And he's just not saying anything.
I mean, the other thing I was going to bring up as well along his timeline, where do you remember in early 2020, where what did he say about Sinn Féin again during the election? Do you remember?
He said that the army counts are still calling the shots, basically.
And then it's like, that's such
crazy.
an intervention for him to make, and especially given that he has connections with MI5. You know, it's crazy to me. And then, like, George and Kencho killed under his watch as well. Like a massive increase in far-right extremist violence that has been aided and abetted by the guards. Some of these people were like brought into libraries to tear up books by the guards. There were people who stood by and watched as people in Clare got onto buses to check people's passports. There was like, you know, these encampments that happened in, I think it was, one of them was in Newtown, Mount Kennedy, and the other one was in Coolock, and they just went on for months without the guards intervening whatsoever. And then on the nights when all the shit kicked off, then they threw petrol bombs at the Crown Paints Centre, where they ended up like bashing some guy in the head, like a security guard, with like a pole.
Yeah.
And then the backup was like forever coming. And then you look at what happened over the weekend in like, what was it, on Culture Night, wasn't it? In Temple Bar.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you know, they have their like, we have this softly approach to the far right. And it's so weird because like, to part of me where it was like, if you saw like a crackdown on certain demonstrations, especially in Dublin City, you'd be like, oh yeah, well, they're doing that because of the Dublin riots. But then on Friday, there was like a massive anti-migrant protest. And then the videos that come out that you see are of them like fucking beating, like pushing and hassling and fucking over, I should say, people in Temple Bar who were enjoying Culture Night, do you know?
Yeah, it was like a sound system thing.
Yeah.
Like music thing. And yeah, I think like a lot of the people who are running that event were black as well. So,
yeah. But it's mental, isn't it? Just that like just the point that I was making though is that like you go, oh well, they want to be seen to be showing a tough hand, and then they don't show a tough hand for the far right in a very obvious demonstration, and then they do show a tough hand for just some people hanging out in Temple Bar. Fucking mental.
Yeah. The other thing that the Glenanne gang did was the Miami show band massacre.
Yeah.
Where they like blew up that show band.
Yeah.
And I think both those things have been linked with the British state. You know what I mean? Like the gang who did it were like getting, you know, like the British state gave so much stuff to all those like loyalist paramilitary groups.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and like, he knows more than anyone in the country about the links between that gang and the British state, but he's just not saying anything.
Yeah.
And he's clearly someone who's happy spouting off about other things, like the Sinn Féin Army Council thing. So, like, you know.
And they like, I don't know. I just don't know how he's managed to like stick it out. I mean, there's so many things that have happened that would be like, you have to resign. Obviously, him and Helen McEntee, by the way, you know, where it's like, how is your position still tenable? Wasn't there this also like that the guards themselves fucking hate Drew Harris, and there was like friction between them with like the GRA. What was that called? I only know it's the acronym. I don't remember what it's called. Guard of Representatives or Association.
Authority.
And they were like, you're not invited to our thing, and like, fuck Drew Harris for this. It was like a separate thing, but still, you know.
Wasn't it? I think there was a vote of no confidence in him.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, part of it is he's sticking it out for a few reasons, but I think it's because like it's not like McEntee is popular.
Yeah.
And then was he hired under? He was hired under a Fine Gael government anyway.
2018, yeah, I think.
So, we might have even been hired under McEntee. I don't know. Or Harris acting.
No, it wouldn't be. It wouldn't be McEntee. It would have been I think it would have been. I want to say Charlie Flanagan for some reason. Was he ever the Minister of Justice? Let me look it up. Drew.
Yeah.
Harris. Drew Harris. 2014 to 20. No, that's him. Sorry, 2018 till present day. He was. Excuse me. The 2018. Who would have been the Minister for Justice in 2018?
Let me just think.
Yeah, let me have a good old think. While I just tap it, the fucking.
I'm just thinking. Minister
Just
for
having
Justice.
a thought. It's coming to me. It's forming in my head. Hey!
Charlie Flanagan.
Yeah, I can't believe I got that.
I completely forgot that he was Minister for Justice.
Yeah, fucking biggest ball bag ever.
Yeah.
He's such a clown. I don't know if you've seen his social media stuff is very funny because he's mad like Ukraine head.
He looks like.
Yeah.
Did you ever get one of those things? You get them at like, you know, the Beano, or you get them in a joke shop. It was like a funny face that stuck onto 3 of your fingers.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like that is what he looks like. That should be the image for the episode, so people know what I'm talking about. Because like he looks exactly like that.
Sir,
I used to love those things. Learn to kiss on one of those things. No.
This is a little thing with like Charlie Flanagan's head on it. And,
Americans are such freaks for that sort of stuff. They're so like over-sexualized. Like if that stuff by like J.D. Vance with the couch, you know, fucking the couch.
You think that's a lie, isn't it though?
Well, even if it is.
Yeah. It's true.
It was surprising to me that it was like controversial because like one of the things Americans do is they like put peanut butter on their dick and then make the dog lick it off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
That is bestiality.
Yeah.
Like you're getting a blowjob off your dog. And it's like, oh, that's just one of the things teenagers get up to. You know what I mean? It's like it's a dog's mouth. It's like biting away and stuff. Like all the sharp teeth. It's like, that's so messed up. You know?
I remember I went to see Lewis Black in Kilkenny Cat Labs. I mean, I didn't well, actually, do you know what? We did specifically go to see Lewis Black, but he was part of like a bunch of comedians that were performing. But he did this bit at one point. Anytime he talked about sex, he would say these stories that clearly like the audience was meant to relate to. and they just do like absolutely nothing. But at one point he said that he thought that like he was talking about what he thought it would be like to lose his virginity. And he said something like, I thought that angels would come down and speak to me. And then what it ended up being was me just looking at my partner going, why are we crying? And like no one laughed. And he was like, I guess it's different for a lot of people. But
one thing I always wondered though is, do they come in the dog's mouth?
Why did you have to say that?
I've always wondered, like, how does it finish?
Ugh. Oh.
So is the dog going around like peanut butter? Oh, fucking hell. That's so gross. They're such freaks, like, they really are. Anyway, what was Lewis Black saying?
That was it, really. There was another one he said where it was like a news article that he read where like a wife ended up biting off her husband's dick because she was sucking him off while he was making pancakes and he accidentally dribbled the grease down her back. And he just kind of tried to imagine the setup behind this story, and he gets to the crescendo of it and he finishes the story, and no one laughed. And then he said that would kill in America, okay? And he just kind of got off the stage and no one had laughed. But like, so at the time, basically, I was seeing this American lady, and she liked Lewis Black because he was on the Daily Show. He used to do, and so we went because of that. And then she was really embarrassed at the lack of reaction to Lewis Black. And then I went over to visit her family in America just that summer, and her dad, as a surprise, got us tickets to see Lewis Black. And so we were like, finally got to see him in an arena. But like the thing, and it was finally, no, but like he was doing the exact same material except for like an audience. And he was right. They loved it.
Really?
They were howling, laughing. And I'm not sure whether it was because like he's off the TV, he's hilarious, or whether like he is actually funny, you know?
Yeah.
Crazy.
That is so crazy.
It was interesting to see. I mean, the funny thing as well was that he only performed for like 20 minutes in fucking Kilkenny. And then he performed for like 2 hours or something at this other thing. But I swear to God, he didn't have any other material besides the 15 minutes that he said in Kilkenny. He just stretched that out for a much longer period of time. I have no idea how he did it. I guess it was,
filled up.
Yeah, the laughing probably did fill up a lot of it.
That is so funny.
Yeah. Terrible, man. So wait, I had something here. Well, should we stick on the guards briefly, or like the government response to? Yeah.
If you're over in America and some guy was like, "Oh, you know the way we did what about this for, Lewis Black style?"
All right.
It's like, we all did the thing with the dog and the peanut butter.
Yeah.
Didn't we, folks? And the audience are like laughing,
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you get the peanut butter, you put it on your dick, the dog starts sucking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, woo. And then it's like,
yeah. And then when you're nutting,
I knew a guy who did it. What?
It's like, then when you're nutting, you don't know where to go. You go in the dog's mouth. And then they're like, it's true. I don't know where I'm supposed to go.
Dogs don't have tits. Where are you supposed to? And then it's like, I knew a guy who did it with his cat. And everyone's like, what the fuck? It's you don't do it with the cat. You do it with the dog.
And he was using grapefruit jelly, folks. I don't know how he got off.
What do you want to say about the guards?
I don't know. Well, I was just there's a rise in far right extremism that like we have been talking about on this podcast since 2020, and now everybody seems to be getting round to it, like just going like, hey, fuck, this might actually be a thing. But their kind of tactic now is to be like, what's propelling these individuals? I want to know want to get inside the mind of this guy who thinks that the triads run O'Connell Street. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
from fucking Kerry.
about this, and it really annoys me. It's like, and it's funny. The one guy I know who I agree with on this is involved in Fine Gael.
Yeah.
So let me tell you. But you meet people who are like lefty artists or whatever. People you hang around with, and they're sort of going like, this is like a working class movement. And these people are like looking out for their interests, even if they're doing awful things. It's like, a response to something.
Yeah.
Maybe I've said stuff similar, but I think like we've said it before though, that the people leading this thing, it's not grassroots, as in some of the people there are probably, just people who are concerned about whatever, like they're from an underserved area, but the people leading it aren't like genuine.
No.
And I feel like a lot of the people I talk to, they buy into the rhetoric that is like, these people are being genuine. And like, it's like if you listen to the words that people like Herman Kelly or whatever are saying, it's like, yeah, you'll go, oh yeah, these people are just concerned about their area.
Yeah.
But they're not. They're just like, who's that family? Some of them were involved. One of them was a councillor over near Coolock. And do you remember I was telling you, Brannigan, one of them's called like Fat Puss.
Okay.
And they're like leaders in this thing, and they're just looking after their area. But they're like a drugs family. You know what I mean? Like they're just like local. It's like if you are like a drugs family in the area, you can't say that you're looking after the area. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
You're preying on the area.
Yeah.
And obviously that's not, if you're an addict or whatever. I'm not saying that.
I know. Yeah.
But like, if you are the guy who's like bringing this stuff into the area,
bringing poison in,
you're poisoning the area.
Yeah.
So like none of these movement leaders, whatever you want to call them, none of them are in any way genuine.
I find it kind of just embarrassing. Like, I mean, obviously it's embarrassing for a lot of reasons, but like, let's say, with the United States, it's like, oh, we brought over a bunch of people from Africa, and then they were our slaves, and then they were emancipated, and then we literally fought, we fought a war to try and prevent that from happening, okay?
Yeah.
And then there's a civil rights movement, there's all this stuff, and it's just such an active, ongoing conversation. And then it's the same in like a lot of these, former colonies. And then in the UK, it's like, oh, we're just better than them because of class hierarchy, society, and stuff like this. And then you have people like in Ireland, which is like the first time they saw a black person might have been like 1965. My granddad had a story one time about a black man coming to Claremorris. And he was like, well, he was a nice fellow, and he was only there for a day, and then he left. But it was like, you know what I mean? It was outside of Dublin. If you saw a black person, you'd be like, holy shit. You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And I just find that the stuff where this, like, obviously people are definitely capable of racism, but it's just such fucking like, the racism is literally like, you look different to me, therefore I hate you. And it's just so when you have these guys talking about it, and then they go, we're just worried about what's going to happen to the local community, and then you go like, why? Well, it's just, we don't have the capacity to take on these people, but you did have the capacity to take on Ukrainians. Well, we did, but that's because they share our values. And then it's just like, it always just breaks down to that. It's literally like they're black or they're brown, and that's it.
Yeah.
And then to make like, we're going to make a big fucking documentary special. We're going to interview all of these people. We're going to have them on Katie Hannon every other week to try and get to the bottom of their grievances. It was like, their grievances make no fucking sense. A lot of them are talking about like, look what's happening in Berlin now. There's no Germans left over there anymore. you know, and you're like, what are you talking about? You're stupid. You're an idiot, you know? Like, I just find it like there's nothing. It's just embarrassing. I don't know. I mean, do I want a better caliber of racist? I don't know. What I'm trying to say is just like, I just think that these people are pig ignorant. So like interviewing them about that sort of stuff is just like, we just go round and round and round, as opposed to the thing where like, you know, I also hate to give them this as well, but like, what's motivating it? Like, if we could actually address the part that makes anybody say, Ireland is full. Ireland is full because we don't have enough houses. All right, build more houses. No, you don't understand. We can't build more houses. We just need to open up that hotel that's been derelict for 2 years so I can go in and pay to have my cup of tea. And then these guys need to go somewhere else. And then I don't care about the dereliction. I don't care about the vacancy. I don't care that everything is shit. I just hate those guys for reasons, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's I just but I think like addressing that stuff could also take the oxygen out of it, but it's just not a case that's easy to make because it seems like you're capitulating. But then the forms of capitulation that they're doing are the stuff that doesn't respond to the actual conditions either. So like, I was just, that's what I was kind of leading up to with this, because like some of the stuff, it's like Helen McEntee is like abandoning the hate speech law. Oh yeah, great news. You know, this is the type of capitulating. Or like, Simon Harris said like, yeah, migrants are going to have to pay their own way. You know, we'll have to take the head of the Garda National Immigration Bureau. There will be significant increases in deportations. You know, like all this rhetoric where it's just like, it's not like, you have a hotel that's no longer in use, that's now being used for refugees, and you want somewhere to go. Let's make a community center. Let's talk about how we can integrate, you know, communities and get people. It's like, no, the question is like, obviously I'm not doing that. So the things that I can do for you are like hate speech law and kind of justify the violence that you're carried out because, you know, it makes it,
and like,
because they're concerned citizens, you know?
Yeah, but like people like Kelly or whoever, they're just going to be like, oh, see, we're right. You know, like, exactly. Just trying to copy us, but they're not going to go far enough. So,
exactly.
Like you're abandoning hate speech law, like it's somewhat unpopular, I think, and then they won't have this election soon. But like increasing deportations, like they're just gonna go like, oh, well, it's not good enough just deport people. We want to stop them coming in. You know what I mean? Like Fine Gael are never going to go far enough for these people, but they're just going to continue drifting to the right. You know what I mean? Like, like you're just seeing so much of the rhetoric shifting to the right, like faster and faster. It feels like
the debate will be like in a few years, like, should we slash their tents or should we burn them down? You know, it's just like,
well, like it's funny, like you say that, but the debate currently is like, should we throw them in the river, like, or should we just like repossess their tents? You know, should we just skip them? Like, it's like the far right are like, let's throw them in the river, and Fine Gael are like, no, we'll just take their stuff and leave them on the street. You know, like that is the debate. Yeah,
that's right.
And like. We'll build them other tents, you know, down the country where they can sleep. You know,
Simon
I think
Harris
as well, like, accommodation for migrants is just going to become grimmer and grimmer. Like, because they are building new, like, purpose-built accommodation or whatever, but it's just going to be like the worst of the worst.
Yeah. I noticed as well that, like, you know, so if you look at the opinion sections, it's kind of like taking the temperature of what the average commentator in Ireland is. So across the opinion sections, just the headlines have been like, if it's to do with migrants, then it's like, we need to take a firmer stance and make sure that they don't even arrive on these shores in the first place. And we need to get tougher and we need to get whatever. obviously in the wake of the Dublin riots, it was like, this is disgraceful. How could this have happened?
With the migrant thing, it's we have to address pull factors, is what they keep saying.
Yes,
that term.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it's like it's really just being like, they just see how good we have it and how good they'll have it if they get here. So we gotta sort that one out.
It is one of the most ignorant things you could possibly say about Ireland, where it's like they look over and they'll see how amazing it is, and it's like, there was basically nobody wants to come to Ireland. It's just kind of like, okay, fucking maybe Ireland, why not? Do you know? I mean, there's obviously the people who have family here as well who want to come over for that, but like, I just don't think Ireland is on people's radar of like, this is a great place that I want to live and go. Like, yeah. So Simon Harris was interviewed in the Sunday Times today, and the focus of the article, the headline reads, I'll talk election dates after the budget. And then the opinion sections are like, when's the election coming? We all know what's happening. We're all excited for an election. Yeah. We love talking about elections. But then the thing that people online are getting wound up about correctly, paragraph in the middle, he draws a link between the surge in immigration and rising homelessness, saying the very serious volume of people coming to the country is now having a real impact. It is not a point he has been as explicit about before, and is one he returns to later in the interview. People understand the fact that homelessness numbers are heavily impacted by the fact we are seeing many people seek protection in our country, seek asylum in our country, and many people come from abroad, hoping to have a new future in Ireland. And immigration has many, many pluses, but it has had a challenge there. So that's what they're going for. They're like, that's the housing crisis in a nutshell. The migrants that are coming in, nothing that we're fucking doing.
Yeah, like that's such bullshit. Partly because when we had like 10,000 people homeless before the migrant crisis,
I know,
or at least up there, but also like they're putting migrants in extremely poor accommodation, but it is accommodation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, they're definitely not counting migrants who are in state accommodation. It's just a complete misdirection. There's one that, like, what's his name? Darrell Bryan.
Yeah. He was way ahead of the ball on this one. He knew. And I mean, like, no, they're just, it's kind of feeding into the same thing. Sorry to be jumping around, but like I listened to Micheál Martin on Drive Time there today. Like, so he was last week he was interviewed by, let me get her name up here, Audrey Carville. So Audrey Carville, I don't know anything about her, but like this interview was one of the most frustrating things because she basically goes, let me get this up right. Yeah, so Taoiseach Micheál Martin has defended, I'll just read out the whole thing because it's quite short, and it beats listening to it because his fucking horrible voice, and it's very unpleasant. Taoiseach Micheál Martin has defended the government's record and says his party has done its best for the country amid crises such as Brexit and a significant rise in the cost of living in recent years. The Fianna Fáil leader bristled when asked in a radio interview this morning about record homelessness, hospital waiting lists and immigration. In response to a question about why his party hasn't taken action on these key issues during its stint in government, and while propping up Fine Gael in a confidence and supply agreement from 2016 to 2020, Martin had a strong back and forth with RTE presenter Audrey Carville. Fianna Fáil have been in government for 4 years, said Martin. Ah, come on now, says Miss Carville. No, you come on, Martin replied. That's the Mary Lou MacDonald Sinn Féin narrative now, come on. That's the old line from Sinn Féin. We've been in confidence and supply. Well, the positive thing for the country insofar as Fianna Fáil contributed to a government at a time when Brexit happened. And Brexit was an existential threat at the time to our trade and economy. We did the right thing by the country, maybe not by the party. Then that gets thrown at us. Martin said there are two narratives in the country, a Sinn Féin narrative that says the country is a failure and another narrative which says the economic model in use has served the country well in recent decades. He added that he doesn't accept that Ireland is a failed state, which she didn't mention, by the way. She didn't say that.
Yeah.
What she said
she literally just said, come on.
Yeah. Well, what she said was, Ireland is a rich country, yet it feels and looks like a poor country. And then she listed off all of the multiple crises that are ongoing. And he goes like, she's like, well, what do you have to say to that? And then he goes, I don't accept that. And he said, and he literally did the Steven Pinker thing of like, yeah, we're not great in the healthcare, but think about how many people were dying like ages ago versus now. Obviously, we need to get better on certain therapies and programs. I agree with you there. You know?
Yeah.
And then the thing they leave out of this article is he didn't say it was just a Sinn Féin narrative. He said it was a people before profit narrative as well. And he said Sinn Féin and people before profit want an entirely different economic model, and they reject like foreign direct investment. And as a result, then we'd miss out on all the things that we've gained from our, you know, how friendly we are to capital, essentially. Which is not true about Sinn Féin. But then also, like, he's saying, look, think about how good we have it now. We wouldn't have that if we had the world that Sinn Féin and PPP want. And it's like, but I don't think that we have it good. No, we do. And they just keep saying that. They just keep saying it. And the same with, like, you brought up pull factors as well. That's the Michael McDowell's article. He's like, we need to remove the pull factors. We need to remove the pull factors. Everybody needs to get. It's like, what planet? Like, to quote Micheál Martin, what planet are you living on?
Yeah.
Like, where the fuck are you?
It's like the Lionel Hutz thing of like, can you imagine a world without lawyers?
Yeah.
It's like, can you imagine an Ireland with a different economic model?
Or like, just like, how are you even like, so whatever about the racist, where it's like, how am I supposed to have a conversation with you because you live in a world where you think that like, we have a Marxist government that's shipping minorities in to tip the balance in votes and to outbreed the Irish, okay? And then you talk to this guy and it's like, okay, well, our economy is fucked and, well, no, our economy isn't fucked, but like our housing is fucked and like healthcare fucked. And he goes, no, it's not. And you just go like, I don't know what you, because she goes like, well, like, are you going to be able to build all of the social housing units you said that you're going to build? And it's like, yeah, we look like we're on target potentially to maybe do this. And she goes, but you haven't built it any other years. Yeah, but this year we will, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and then it's like, the other thing is, she did make, I think that thing about saying, why do we look like a poor country? And another thing that's like not being mentioned is like dereliction and vacancy, which is contributing to that, obviously. And then the main thing they got, we need to keep building housing, we need to keep building infrastructure. And the most important thing for building new houses is to make sure that like the pipes go out there, the electricity goes out there. And it's like, here's something that solves all of those problems at once. You just take the vacant properties from the people who are sitting on them speculatively, and then you just refurbish them because they already have the electricity, they already have the fucking water, okay? All they need is new, like a lick of paint and some other shit put on top of it. Do you know what I mean? They need to be made alive again. And then the cities come back to life, all this other stuff, you know? Like, and then they go, oh no, well, it won't solve it overnight. There are many ways to attack this. It was like, try fucking one. And maybe, do you know what I mean? Like, it's always this thing where it's like, unless we have the silver bullet, there's no point pulling the trigger on anything, you know?
Yeah. And the silver bullet they have is just completely impossible to ever achieve, you know?
Well, it's build more assets to encourage more speculation. Like, it doesn't really matter. You could build 1 million homes and it wouldn't matter because these guys will just scoop them up, do you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I know. Like, it's like, maybe I'm wrong about this, but particularly on the Irish subreddit, you'll see people fuming because there's loads of like build to rent, you know, apartment complexes, and people object to them. And it just feels like build to rent, it's just like, you're not going to get to live in this. You're not going to be able to afford to live in this. It's like, there'll be like a load of apartments built somewhere, and then a company will come along and buy them all.
Yeah.
And then charge extortionate rent. And if they don't get that rent, they just won't rent them out.
Yeah, exactly. You know?
So like, when I just read about those objections, I'm like, yeah, well, I wouldn't people aren't getting those either way, you know?
Yeah.
Or the vast majority of people aren't. And they're also not going to, it's not like, if those did get built, it would have an effect whereby like rents would go down overall. Because
exactly.
You remember Killian Woods reported on it maybe a year or two ago. It's like these companies are just artificially maintaining high rents by manipulating the market, you know?
Yeah.
So whenever I read about that, I'm just like, yeah, that's like, it's as if you read about like stocks and shares. It just doesn't feel like real money or real housing.
Yeah. It's the funny one that was Pierce Doherty. I haven't heard it, but apparently he was on something. I think Pierce Doherty is like, I don't know why they keep like he comes out every now and again, but he should be just like, he basically should be leader of Sinn Féin as far as I'm concerned. He should be up there, but the only reason he's not is because he's got a northern accent and he seems loud. They're like, no, we're like a nice party where we have like a lady from Dublin, and don't worry, you can vote for us. It's okay. Don't think about the other guy with the beard from a few years back. You know. But anyway, Pierce Doherty, they go like, they're all like having this nice little thought experiment going like, we got this 13-14 billion. What are we going to spend it on? And Pierce Doherty goes, we already have like 100 billion surplus, and they're already not spending that. So why does it matter? Like, he's like, we could suggest all these things. They're not going to pay for it. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's like, they're ideologically opposed to using that money for this stuff. And they're just like, to have the conversation is to just play their game, essentially. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I think about the Apple money because I was...
That's the end of the free bit. Get over to patreon.com/CelticLigers to hear the rest of the convo where they talk about Apple having to fork over $13 billion and read from the 2016 Dáil records to see all of the politicians getting down on their knees to suck Apple off. After that they cover a bizarre interview in The Guardian between an Israeli and a Palestinian trying to reach across the divide. One guess who proves to be a complete psycho. Also access to the back catalogue with the instant classic Irish comedy Unleashed episode where the Ligers talk about Graham Linehan's stand-up. All-timer. Thank you.